and welcome to Wonder Subs, the best Euro football podcast ever! And that's a fact. Joining me, I should give you my name first. My name is Paddy Murphy. Joining me are Tomas Cuncik and Carlos Santos. Hello, men.
Hi, Paddy. Hi,
Carlos. Hey, sup, peeps? How are you guys?
So before we start then, just some reminders. We are Wonder Subs on Twitter, Facebook, and you can listen to us through Libsyn or on iTunes and all other Android podcast player thingamajigs as well. So just have a search for Wonder Subs wherever you get your audio. And we're also on YouTube as well. So without further ado then, let's get talking about this week's football topics. First up, Carlos, what are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about the international friendlies. We have several of them, and before getting into each of them individually, I think it's important I speak about this because Jorge Jesus, the Sporting Lisbon coach, Sporting Club Portugal coach, you guys know it from Sporting Lisbon, he said something that's actually interesting, and it's something to discuss. Because he said that FIFA dates, they always have priority over the championship, even when there's nothing to be played. You know, like there's no qualification to be played, it's just friendly. So I think this is a good point. He makes a good point. And Sporting played on Thursday to the Europa League, and they played then on Sunday to the championship, which was a big match, really important for them. Actually, they won it, and they played really well, one of the best matches this season. But things that, usually if that happened, and they played Thursday, what would happen is they would play on Monday, and they would have another day to rest, which would be the most advisable thing to do, given that you have European competitions on the week before. What do you guys think of this? Does Jesus have a point? Because I think he has. I think he has a point because the clubs play the players. I'm not even going there. Your country is your country, and you should represent your country. But when there's something to do, to qualify to a competition or something, when it's when it's a friendly and the national coach just wants to sort out one or two doubts he has, I think things get a bit different there. I think that clubs may have priority over the national teams. What do you guys think?
I'll go first then. What I like is something that the Polish national team do. I don't know if Slovakia do it, Thomas, so maybe you can tell us. And Ireland have only done it once or twice, and it's that when they have these really meaningless friendlies, they will take a team from only the local league. So, Poland's national team is mostly made up of players who play abroad. Germany, Spain, France, wherever, England. And, but for the more, meaningless of friendlies, they'll just pick a team from the Polish national, league, which I think is a great idea. It gives them a chance. It gives people a bit of experience on a national stage and kind of gets them used to, gets them used to being in an international squad. I would like to see Ireland do something similar. Now, surely Ireland would get hockeyed by teams if they only picked teams from only picked players from the National League. But so what? It's about giving them some experience, and maybe some of them could then go on to play at a higher level. But that would be my opinion. Thomas, what would you think?
It's a difficult topic, really. I can understand what Jorge Jesus was saying, that because he really needed that one day extra for the club. But having said that, the football calendar generally is so packed with club schedules and with the national teams' schedules that it's very difficult to find a compromise that would suit everyone. I don't agree with the term meaningless friendly at all. I believe every international friendly has a meaning and is important. It can be important for different reasons. Either like Paddy was saying, that what Poland national team do to test the new guys and from local leagues to give them the experience on the international level. Or the second point can be to get your best players together and prepare for either event that is coming up or the next qualification phase the thing is, you don't get the players together very often in a year, and these international friendlies and in the calendar help you to get your players together, help you to make from the group of players make a team. Let's say it this way. So this is my opinion.
So, I suppose, Thomas, you'd be a big fan then of what UEFA are going to do with this Nations League.
Definitely. That's it's a great idea. I mean, and I guess, Paddy, you should like that, because if you're talking about meaningless friendlies, then this UEFA Nations League removes makes the, let's say, what would otherwise be friendlies, makes it into a nice competition. So I fully support it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And coming up to the draw, I was super excited about it, man. Honestly, I was like the only person in the office who was really into this Nations League, or League of Nations, as I like to call it, and a tip back to the former UN. But I was really excited about it until the draw, and then Ireland got Wales and Denmark, who they had just played like 2 weeks before that. So I was like, oh, come on. But that's just the way it is. No, I think it's a good idea. Carlos, what's your opinion on it?
I think it's a way to add some flair to the nations competitions. You know, it's not just friendlies anymore. Everything's not just friendlies. I totally agree with what Thomas said about forming the group, about getting some chemistry and some synchronizing in. And but I think this is very good. I mean, teams can play for something even when they are not really just doing a qualification, or I think it's great. I think it adds some flair and it adds competitiveness to the international football, for sure.
And just on something else, Carlos, how did I'm not going to say his name properly now because you say it so perfectly, Jorge Jesus, how did his comments go?
You can just say Jesus. He's our Jesus, man.
Jorge Jesus. I don't know, is the Portuguese J, is it strong or is it soft? I don't know.
Well, it depends on what word we're saying.
Languages. So okay,
my second name is actually Jorge.
George. So George, it's not Jorge, it's George. See, this is the thing, but I'm terrible.
Jorge is Spanish.
Sorry. So George Jesus. So when he made these comments in Portugal, what was the media reaction?
It's not as much about the media reaction as it is from the fans.
Okay.
Because the fans, they get it wrong. You know, the fans, they say, no, because Portugal is first, and we need to look after our national team first. The media are okay with it. They already know him. They know what kind of coach he is, and they know he says what's going through his mind. So it's not surprising at all for him to say something like this. He's just saying what he thinks, and I think he has a point. I really think he does. So yeah, I'm with him. I'm Team Jesus.
So how would you solve it then if it was up to you?
Well, if it was up to me, if we're talking about friendlies, you wouldn't be able to just change the date of a match that would normally go through on Monday to stop important players from going earlier to the national team. You know, they can go on Tuesday morning. They can go to the national team on Tuesday morning and still have the match on Monday. In this case, they would be a bit less fresh for the national team, but we're talking about friendlies. We're talking about friendlies. It's not qualification. They know it's not a life or death situation. You know what I mean? If it was qualification, it's okay. Even if it's a qualification when it's already done, when you're out or you're qualified, then it makes sense. For me, it makes sense. About friendlies, I don't think so. I think it's different. In friendly situation, yes, I think you need to have a core, to have an important group that you'll take to the World Cup, in this case. But at the same time, it just has two sides of this, you know, and I agree when there's disagreements about this topic, because yes, Portugal is Portugal and preparing the World Cup, but when it gets in the way of clubs that are fighting for something, and then you go to the national team to play a meaningless friendly, that's where I draw the line.
I don't call it meaningless friendly. I mean, you both call it that way, but don't call it like that.
Sorry, Tom.
It's okay.
I know, like there is a very tricky balance with international friendlies, because say for example, like Ireland are away playing Turkey on Friday night. Now that's not a massive game. There won't be a lot of Turks probably going to see it, even though they have a new manager. There probably won't be that many Irish fans going. But then again, I mean, it's a little holiday in the sun for the Irish fans, so probably a few of them will go. But we'll get to it. But the Irish team will have a lot of new faces and stuff like that. But it's not exactly a glamour tie that's going to sell out a lot of advertising or anything like that on TV. Whereas something like, say, Germany are playing Spain and Argentina are playing Italy in Manchester, bizarrely. But these will be, big glamour ties. So it's kind of, it's very hard for the associations, especially the smaller teams, to get the big teams and have glamour games when really the big teams, they kind of just want to play each other, because they know that then they can secure the most revenues, basically. So Thomas, like for people like me and you who are from, smaller footballing countries, and not like Carlos who's from a big footballing country, we'll say, no, but Portugal is a much more seriously a football country than Slovakia or Ireland are, or probably ever will be. And I don't think there's any harm really in saying that. But
no.
Thomas, if you were like if you were the boss of the Slovakian FA, like, would you be going after teams who are kind of in the same bracket as you to play against, or would you be trying to get Argentina, Germany, Brazil to come to Slovakia?
It all depends on in what time of the year or what time in the football calendar are we talking about, and whether the country or the national team are preparing for an event, or like Slovakia now, they're not qualified for the World Cup, so they are preparing for the, let's say, for the new qualifications, which will only come after the Nations League. So, but then it's always interesting to meet the better teams and compare yourself to the better teams. And whenever there is such an opportunity, I think the FA should be going for it. Like, in case of Slovakia, now in March, the team travel to Bangkok. They will play the King's Cup there, which is kind of, interesting. They were part of it, I think, once, before, a few years back, but it's not the usual type of friendlies that they play over the course of the year. They will play United Arab Emirates on Thursday morning, and Central Europe time. But I think in May, Slovakia will play, for example, Netherlands at home, which is just amazing for Slovakian fans, to see such a big countries. Even though Netherlands were struggling a bit recently, but they're still a big team. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's always nice for these small countries, like you say, to play these big countries. I mean, and I'm pretty sure that if the Slovak FA had a, let's say, offer from Argentina or Brazil, they would do everything to make it happen.
See,
you don't play these every day.
That's my one worry, lads, about this Nations League, and it's that I'm afraid that, say, Ireland, who aren't very good at football, they will just be stuck in a repetitive loop of playing the same kind of teams around them. And like the argument was made, well, we should be playing teams around us because that's how we improve. There's no point in us playing Argentina or Brazil, because we'll just get beaten all the time. But I'm just kind of thinking, like, in 4 or 5 years' time, maybe Irish fans will just be really, really sick of watching us play Denmark and Switzerland and Estonia and Finland and these.
You know what I think, Paddy?
Yeah.
I have a bit of a different opinion about that. I think it's important for you to play big national countries. Big football countries, but I think it's also important that you face teams that are similar in terms of either formation or style of play than the ones that are going to play you in the World Cup. I think it's true. If you get against Denmark or against Norway, I'm not speaking about teams that are going to be in the World Cup. I'm just picking up an example. So if you're going to play against Denmark, maybe you want to do a friendly against Sweden. No, it's just because they're similar styles of play, and that's something that helps you preparing better to the teams that you're facing in the serious competition. You know, so more than filling up stadiums and calling big names like Ronaldo, Messi, or Iniesta or something, it's more about the preparation on the tactical side and about preemptive. What are you going to face in the World Cup? You know, what's your group going to be like? I think that's my opinion. That's where you should go.
I think you can sum it up in one sentence of a very wise man, that like everything in life, you need to find the balance in this as well.
Exactly. Well spoken, dear Thomas. Well spoken.
We're back then, and we want to talk about some of the upcoming friendlies. Thomas, you mentioned there Slovakia taking on the UAE in the King's Cup. So what's the kind of gossip around the team? Who's going to be playing?
Yeah, our coach Jan Kozak decided to take his, let's say, best possible team that from the players that are available. The big news about the team is Marek Hamšík, the SSC Napoli star and the captain, got injured on Sunday when the team won against Genoa 1-0. So he was taken off in the 20th minute. So he came to Slovakia because yesterday on Monday there was this ceremony of announcing the Player of the Year 2017, and he won it. So he won it 7th time in a row.
Wow.
As the best player of the year, but he's not traveling. He didn't. Well, the team already traveled to Bangkok, but he wasn't included. He's going back to Italy to undertake treatment and medical examinations. What is wrong? Apparently, it's a muscle injury, and it may be a bit more serious than thought at first. So let's see, and let's wish for him all the best. A part of that, defender Norbert Jombier, who is expected to fill the gap of Jan Durica, who was a regular defender for a long time and who retired from the national team after the unsuccessful qualifying campaign, has some injury concerns. He's not fit for the first match against the UAE. Part of that, the team should be pretty well balanced. There are some youngsters, there are some experienced players. It will be interesting to see who will play second match, because as it stands, this is like the semi-final of the King's Cup, and then the winner plays the winner of Gabon against Thailand. So let's see who we play. But it's again, playing countries from different confederations. It's always an interesting confrontation.
They'll win, obviously, won't they?
Well, let's see.
Carlos, Portugal have a couple of matches, don't they? They're playing Egypt, Mo Salah's Egypt, and Netherlands as well.
Yeah, they do, and they serve more for the national team coach, the national coach Fernando Santos, for him to just he has some doubts. Yes, according to him, Portugal has 70% of the squad already decided. So the next 30% are going to be decided in the next friendlies, and talking about Egypt and Netherlands.
You see, just sorry to interrupt you, but
sure, go.
You see, here is exactly the point why there's no meaningless friendly, because you said that 30% of the squad will be decided in the friendlies. And yeah, here you go, the friendlies, the importance of the friendlies.
Okay, I completely agree, but again, I say that the 70% didn't have any trouble in having a match on Monday and then going on Tuesday. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, we had a couple of surprises in the called-up squad, like the center backs, Rolando from Marseille, and also Ruben Dias from Benfica, the young center back that's doing really well at club level. Unfortunately for him, he got injured this week, and he won't be able to play in these friendlies, which is actually a major blow for him because it was going to be it was probably going to be his first cap for the A's. So yeah, I'm a bit. I think he's the next in line for when we look at the Portugal centre backs. You have Pepe, Bruno Alves, José Fonte, and Neto. So Pep is like 34 years old. I'm not completely sure about this, so correct me if I'm wrong, maybe if you have the data all around. Pepe is 34 years old. José Fonte is 34 years old, and Bruno Alves is 35. we need to start grooming some center backs, and that hasn't been happening. Okay, now with Ruben Diaz, it was gonna start. And we've seen some call-ups for Luis Neto as well, but it's just, I don't think Neto is in that spot where Pepe and where José Fonte and where Bruno Alves were when they were first called up. I think his level is a bit lower, and I think that's one of the major concerns of, Portuguese football right now. We have a lot of fullbacks. We have a lot of center midfielders. We have a lot of wingers. I mean, we're also lacking a center forward. But again, with Gonçalo Guedes, he's playing better. He's the future, along with Andre Silva as well. Ronaldo is leading the team. So yeah, I mean, in these friendlies, we might not see we shouldn't see the best team available. We should see some experiences, and we should see also the coach just seeing what he wants to do with the 30%. Who's gonna call up? Because I don't think Renato Sanches is gonna be called up for starter, despite the incredible Euro he made. I don't think Pizzi from Benfica is gonna be called up. André Gomes from Barcelona. Is he gonna be called up? I mean, he's not doing very well at Barcelona. It's just, is he gonna be called up because he's a Barcelona player? There's so many things that are yet to decide. Again, these friendlies will help, but I think 70% of the team decided is already a big thing, and later in April or start of May, we can speak about this again. But I think that, I mean, it's already a really important factor to have your 70% done. It's like the core of the team, and then you have the backups that are there to help when someone gets injured, or you need a bit of flair back on the pitch on minute 70 or minute 60. You need something more. It's really important for Portugal to be where they are right now, and these two friendlies will just help grooming the players that are waiting to get into the squad list for the World Cup.
Good stuff. There's a couple of friendlies I was having a look at as well. Obviously, Turkey versus Ireland is of interest, but there was one that has a kind of English angle, and we all know that everyone loves to have a sneaky little look at how England are always getting on. But Panama are away to Denmark in their first warm-up friendly, and bookies are obviously making Denmark massive favourites. But what I found of interest here was that Panama in their friendlies, they're playing Denmark, Switzerland, Northern Ireland, and Norway. So apart from Switzerland there, all of those teams play this kind of English style of football. So Panama have obviously decided, right, England are the team that we need to beat at the World Cup, because they're taking on Belgium, Tunisia, and England. England is their second match. They're playing these matches in the hope that, coming up against teams that play in an English style, they'll crack how to beat this system, and they'll be able to beat England in the World Cup in Russia. I thought that was pretty interesting. You had mentioned it earlier, Carlos, about playing, like, if you're going to play Sweden, then play Norway in a friendly, and
exactly.
Yeah, it's mad.
Exactly. This just matches what I was talking about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's mad. It's very strange. On the Ireland match, I won't speak too long on it because I know most people will be bored of it. But the Irish-Turkey match is pretty interesting as well, because Turkey have a new manager. I'm going to butcher his name. Mirslay Lucescu. Lucescu, that's an easy one. He's a Romanian, and he was the manager of Shakhtar Donetsk for years and years and years. He was there for about 10, 12 years, I think. And he's been brought in to play more expansive and attacking football, because he had been manager of Besiktas in Turkey just before Shakhtar, and they had an unbeaten season. No, sorry, they lost when they won the championship in Turkey. They only lost once, and they got 85 points, and they played very, very attacking football. And yeah, they've been brought in because the Turkish team of late have been quite boring and not very attacking, and they have some good young players in now, especially Cengiz Under, who's been fantastic for Roma. So the hope is for Turkey that they'll have this new attacking brand of football. While with Ireland's team gone out there, Ireland have had loads of retirees over the last couple of months. And manager Martin O'Neill, it's a bit of a mess, because after Ireland didn't qualify, after Denmark beat them in Dublin, Martin O'Neill faced a real harsh vitriol from the supporters and the press, which I think was deserved. Ireland were terrible that night against Denmark. They had been very, very boring in their qualifying campaign as well. But they yeah, a lot of lads have retired, and yeah, this is my point. He had his head turned when Everton and Stoke City fired their managers, and he was linked with those jobs. So I think now with the Irish fans and with the players as well, it's kind of like, well, can we really put our trust in a manager who so obviously wants to leave, is one point. But secondly, he has brought in a whole load of new young Irish players, and a worry for a lot of Irish fans for many years has been that there's been no young talent coming through, and now we're starting to see that there are actually a couple of decent players. They're in the championship level in England. So you have Seanie Maguire, who's the striker for Preston. He's a really good player. He's been scoring a lot of goals. You've Scott Hogan, who's plays for Aston Villa. He's found a bit of form lately as well. You have Matt Doherty, who's a very good defender for Wolves, and who else is there? And there's Declan Rice, the West Ham defender as well. So there's a couple of youth players coming in. So it'll be interesting for both Turkish and Irish fans to see how the new players kind of integrate into that. So hopefully it'll be a 1-1 draw and everyone will be happy. Was there any other games, lads, that stood out for you? What have we written down here on our let me go. Russia and Brazil. That's a big one, isn't it? Who wants this one?
Yeah, I picked this one because obviously when the World Cup hosts play Brazil, it's a huge game. But what's kind of worrying for the Russian team is currently their injuries that they face, and the injuries they already know that they will face during the World Cup. They got a bit of defensive problems. They've got the CSKA defenders Berezutski and Ignashevich who quit the national team. Then they've got the Georgi Kikia and Viktor Vasin, who are injured and who are set to miss the World Cup together with Alexander Kokorin. And I think it's not an ideal preparation for a home World Cup. Also, they lack competitive games because they didn't have to go through the qualifying campaign. Aren't
Russia like the lowest ever ranking team to host or something like that? Is that right?
I cannot confirm the statistics.
Okay, I'm going to look this up then while you're talking.
It can be, yeah. But I'm not 100% sure on this one. But
hey, Thomas, Thomas, just a quick question. Do you think with that all those problems at the back, maybe Ignashevich and Berezutski come back for the World Cup? You think that's possible, or?
From what I heard, no.
Okay.
From what
there have been players coming back. I'm remembering from Ricardo Carvalho, for example. He came back to play after retiring, so
it would be good for them actually. But yeah, so I mean, it's going to be massive. Even the game against Brazil, they play in Luzhniki, which is the venue for the World Cup final. So that should be Brazil, of course, without injured Neymar, but still with some star players. They got Felipe Luis also injured. I think he got injured in Moscow playing in the Europa League round of 16, second leg against Lokomotiv. It's expected to be a nice match, but the injury worries are quite a problem for Russian team. I mean, at this situation, I can't really see Russians getting anything out of this friendly, even if it's a friendly against Brazil, especially with the defensive problems that they face against such a strong offensive team as
what do you think
Brazil, who've been impressive lately.
From a Brazilian point though, with Neymar being out, this is kind of isn't it? This is a good opportunity for Tite to play around with his attack, isn't it? Because like he did this crazy thing in the middle of February. He named his starting 11 for the World Cup. He said these are the 11 that are going to play, and now Neymar's been injured. I think everyone else is pretty much okay, but. So Neymar will go out, probably Coutinho will probably take his place, and maybe Firmino or Gabriel Jesus will play then as a lone striker.
Exactly. This is, again, we come to a point that this is a very meaningful friendly to play for.
There are no meaningless friendlies.
Brazil, I mean, this is exactly what you're saying. This is the ideal situation for the Brazilian coach to find someone who can be, let's say, not replace Neymar, because I think they will do everything they can for him to be fit for the World Cup, but at least to have an alternative in case something goes wrong. Because something can go wrong even at the World Cup. If you are to play in the later stages of the World Cup, you have to go through 3 group stage matches in round of 16, quarterfinal. I mean, there's plenty of matches on the way to the glory, so you need to have an alternative if something happens.
Absolutely. There's another big one, isn't there? Germany are playing Spain.
Yeah, that's the Euro 2008 recap of the final. Both Germany and Spain were incredible in their qualifying campaigns. I think Germany won all their 10 group stage matches. In the qualifying, Spain got 9 wins, 1 draw, so incredible. This is always very anticipated tie, and it's very hard to separate these two teams because both are the favorites, one of the co-favorites for the World Cup, at least in my eyes. So this will be very prestigious friendly in Düsseldorf in Germany, and again, it's an opportunity for the coaches to try some players that maybe they have doubts about for the World Cup. For example, the German coach Joachim Löw, he left out Marco Reus for Germany. According to what Löw said, he decided not to include Reus because of his ongoing injury problems. Marco Reus is a great player, but he's so unlucky with all the injuries that he
made a glass.
Now he's back in the action, but probably he wants him to give time to really recover. It can be also a good opportunity on the Spain side for Asensio or for the uncapped Marcos Alonso, who is also in the squad. So we can see some really young players, prospective players.
Saul has made the step up as well from under 21s into the national team. I really like Spain's new manager. I think it was very smart of them to get the he was former under 19 manager and former under 21 manager. I think it was really smart to get him into the job, because then he could bring those new players that he knew. That he won under 19 and under 21 Euros with those players, so he knows them very, very well. I think it was a really smart idea by the Spanish FA to name him manager, because as well it's kind of they kind of have an easy get out, because there's less pressure on him because he's more of an unknown. Like if they brought in a big name to manage, there'd be a whole lot of pressure on him. But because he's a previous underage manager and he knows these players, then there's a bit less pressure on them. And I think that's going to work very well for them in Russia. I think it's very, very smart of them.
Guys, what do you think of Alvaro Morata being left out of the squad?
I'm a big fan of Morata. I really like him. I don't know what's gone wrong with him at Chelsea. I can't quite put my finger on it. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of Morata. I think it will come good for him at Chelsea. I can't really put my finger on why it's not been good, because he was so good at Juventus. I don't think he really got a fair shout at Real Madrid. But in the games he did play, he did score quite a lot of goals, and I hope it comes right from a Chelsea. And that pains me to say, because I really don't like Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Chelsea either, being a Liverpool fan. But the thing is that maybe he has the Torres syndrome. He can have the Torres. He gets to Chelsea and then he disappears.
Forgets how to score.
Open goal situations? Nah, over the bar. Like this, So, yeah, I mean, it's just not a good time for him. He's not getting the performances he needs to be in the national squad. I mean, in that case, I think it's not surprising to see him out of the call-up squad.
Would you include him in the World Cup squad?
Depends on how he plays for the rest of the season, Thomas.
Yeah, exactly. It depends.
It depends on how the other Spanish strikers are playing, because I'm not a guy that goes for names. Oh, it's Morata. Yeah, okay, Morata. But if I have a guy playing in the fourth spot or fifth spot of the Spanish league that's not as well known as Morata, but it's making an incredible season, then I was gonna go for him as well, for sure.
Exactly. This is always England's problem. England managers always go with names. They don't always bring their best team.
It's been like that for a while now.
Okay, and we're back, and we're going to have a little chat about last week's Europa League and Champions League draws. Woohoo! So let's start with the football hipster option. Let's go with the Europa League draws first. So just a reminder, Leipzig will be taking on Marseille, Arsenal will face CSKA Moscow, Atletico Madrid will take on Sporting, and Lazio will be up against Salzburg. Thomas, let's start with you here. Which is the tie of the round for you?
There are two. It's hard to separate, so I'll answer with two ties that are really the ones I'm looking forward. And that's, of course, the Iberian derby, Atletico Madrid against Sporting. And, of course, it's the almighty Salzburg playing against Lazio. So these two. The reason why? Well, as we spoke in our last podcast, Salzburg are on the incredible run in European competitions now after they eliminated Dortmund with a win and a goalless draw. They are on a 19 games unbeaten streak, so they are two games away from equaling the Ajax record. And they play Lazio, who have some really skillful players and who can play really nice football when they have their day. So I'm looking forward to this one. And of course, Atletico against Sporting, that should be probably the cracker of the round. So maybe, yeah, that's the tie, probably that two big names. If you look at Atletico Madrid against Sporting, I think this could be, and if you don't know that it's a Europa League quarterfinal, it could be easily a knockout tie in the Champions League.
Yeah, that's true. I remember actually being in Madrid in Vicente Calderon. I don't even remember the year, but it was I don't even remember if it was Champions League, but it was Atletico Madrid Sporting, and I was there. I remember every small detail. And there's so much going around this, because you have one of the best strikers ever for Portuguese football and also for Sporting and also for Atletico Madrid involved in this, which is Paulo Futre. He's already saying that, oh, we should have got them in the final. I want Sporting to face Atletico in the final. And also the Twitter game has started. As soon as Sporting knew that Atletico were their opponents in the quarterfinals, they came out with this beautiful tweet. I mean, they went like, who handpicked Atletico for us? Like, this was their tweet. And there were Atletico, I didn't see Atletico respond yet, but it's gonna be, I think this is the best one, the best clash because of that. I'm with Thomas there. Because there's a lot of things going around it. There's two quality teams, two different styles of play, a team that has much bigger salary cap, not salary cap, that's NBA, sorry, but much bigger budget than the other one. Atletico is obviously superior, but I think if you saw the matches that Sporting did against the big clubs in the European competitions in the past few years, they played Real Madrid, they played Borussia Dortmund, they played Barcelona, and then they really do well against these teams, against teams that are clearly superior to them.
They're not so good they're not so good, Carlos, against the inferior ones. I was watching the Pilsner match. And it was close, man. It was close. Pilsner had their chances.
I was watching it as well. That was an exciting game, but Sporting just missed so many chances.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Really great chances, like so close. Like the goal was half empty, for example. I couldn't believe my eyes. But the penalty as well. I mean, it was clever from the goalkeeper to stay in the middle of the goal.
Because Bastos, he takes some penalties to the middle, but he does something that I really appreciate in a player that takes penalties. Just to diverge a little bit right now, is he doesn't look to the ball when he's taking the penalty. He looks at the goal. And there are a lot of players that look at the ball when they're going to take a penalty. And that's actually easier for the keeper than when you look at him, when you're looking at the keeper and you're looking at the goal. Because it's just, you can manipulate the keeper this way.
One thing is for sure that, Sporting, they need to raise the level of their game if they want to be competitive against Atletico. If they would play like against, Pilsen in the return leg in Czech Republic, then they'll be struggling against Atletico.
I think we're gonna have two good games, Thomas. Yeah. Two really good games. No doubt about that. I would say this is the cracker. Atletico Sporting for sure.
Right, then
What about you, Paddy? Which one do you think is gonna be the most interesting one?
From this, no, I would have to agree, which is I would watch that one out of all of those. Arsenal Moscow, wouldn't, I can't. Arsenal are a difficult team to, not a difficult team to like. I want to like Arsenal because I want to like how they want to play football, if you understand me. You know, but.
Of course I do, yeah.
But they're just a mess at the minute, and I don't like, I don't like watching a team kind of fall apart, and I wish Wenger would just go, or maybe if they win this and he goes out with a no but like if he wins this and he could go out in a blaze of glory, that'd just be the best thing for the club and he'd leave on a high. But I don't know, it's kind of like he just can't get the message. It's like, just go and end the pain for people, will you? You know? And, actually then again, Leipzig-Marseille, that should be a pretty good match as well. I was watching Marseille the other night against Lyon, and, Lyon were good. They won, 2-3. Lyon were the away team. That was pretty good. And Leipzig, of course, just beat Bayern Munich. They were fantastic in that match. So that'll probably be a good match as well. Because a lot of the teams, this is their chance of getting, you know, getting a bit of silverware and also getting into the Champions League, next season, apart from Atletico Madrid, who will be assured of theirs place. Marseille aren't sure of theirs. Leipzig will be. Moscow, I'm not too sure, but yeah, they're interesting matches now, that's for sure. But it's this stage of the tournament, isn't it? They all get really good. I mean, especially the Atletico Madrid match, Sporting. I mean, that could be a final. You know, those two teams.
And if you look at the countries from where the clubs are, you've got 8 different countries. And I think this is the beauty of European football. Yep. You have 8 different countries in one competition. That's really what I really like about these quarterfinals. And I have to oppose Paddy that I think Arsenal for me are the biggest favorites to win the Europa League out of these 8 teams. But they will have a very difficult job against CSKA Moscow, who can defend really well. They've got a really good organization of the game, so it's going to be a really tough one, even though it may look on paper that it's a easy job for Arsenal.
My favorite is Atletico, by the way. I just wanted to say that.
Right. Let's move on then to the Champions League draw. So Barcelona will play Roma, Sevilla will play Bayern Munich, Juventus will play Real Madrid, and Liverpool will play Manchester City in an all-English affair, which I found that interesting that maybe UEFA don't want lots of English fans going to Kiev in Ukraine in the summer. Sorry, lads.
It's okay. That's okay.
Let's start with that one then. Liverpool versus Man City. How do you boys see this one going?
If I can start first, this is going to be very, very difficult one to separate these two teams. Of course, they know each other well from Premier League. But City are the favorites, but it's not going to be so straightforward, definitely. A lot will depend on the first game, how, if Liverpool can get a reasonable result in the first game, then it might be really dramatic. But, overall, I think, City will go through.
I can't say Liverpool's gonna lose this one. I'm sorry. I want Liverpool to go as far as they can. Of course, City is in much better shape. The championship is practically done, and they can just rest players in the league to throw their best 11 in the Champions League. But you never know. I mean, it's a Champions League. Liverpool has an history there. You know, they have history going for them as well. So they have Salah in amazing shape. He just scored 4 more goals. I mean, that guy is just delightful to see. Yeah, I go Liverpool. Underdogs.
I don't know who I would probably pick Man City going at my head, but I would love to see Liverpool going through. Next one, Juventus and Real Madrid. We'll start with you, Carlos.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite match of the round for sure. You have Buffon probably in his last Champions League.
He's never going to quit, man. He was supposed to retire from the Italian national team. He's probably going to play against Argentina. He's been named in the squad. He'll never quit. He'll never die.
Yeah, maybe. But again, I think that's my choice for the best match of the round. I think we're going to have a beautiful tactical confront. I think Juve has the upper hand, despite Real Madrid having Ronaldo in great shape in Champions League as always. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting confront from start to finish. I'm not expecting a lot of goals. Yeah, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those for people who really appreciate football for what's besides the goals.
Well, of course, goals are overrated, Carlos. I mean, come on, the perfect game is 0-0. It means no mistakes were made. We all know that. I'm with you though. I think Juventus have the upper hand here. Thomas?
Yeah, I have to agree with both of you. Juventus, if there is anyone that can knock out Real Madrid out of Champions League, then it's Juventus. But as both of you have pointed out, it's going to be a very tactical game. Not too many goals, but Juve have got the quality, especially in the back, to stop Ronaldo and company. But again, it depends. You know, there's so many factors that can influence these games. Like we saw in the Tottenham against Juve match. It looked so straightforward for Tottenham for 60 minutes or so, and then it all turned around in 4 minutes, was it? So, but I'm on you with this one. I think Juve will get through, but after 2 very dramatic and sensational matches.
So what about Seville and Munich then?
Sevilla and Munich, although I really liked Sevilla, how they played against Manchester United, and they showed that they really got the potential. Vincenzo Montella showed that he's a great coach. He did some clever moves. But it's going to be difficult against Bayern Munich. Whenever Bayern Munich had Jupp Heynckes as the coach, they are doing really well. I saw them in the weekend playing in the Bundesliga against Leipzig. They were not that good. I cannot say that they were good, but the Champions League is a different story. They will have a bit of a rest, and I expect them to go through.
Are we seriously going to comment on this game? Sorry. Sorry, man. I think, of course,
why was that? I don't understand.
Because I think it's done. I don't think Bayern is gonna struggle at all.
Well,
I don't think they're gonna struggle at all.
Why would it be done? You know,
of course it's never done, and it's.
Did you see the 1999 final?
Hey man, Portugal are European champions. I mean, anything can happen.
That's a bit different, man. No, but of course, I agree with you, Thomas. Of course, no match is done before it starts. But I think Sevilla has 15% of chances of winning the game. Well, winning the round.
I think you've been in football for long enough to know that anything can happen.
Of course, impossible is nothing. And but the thing is that Bayern have their championship won, so they don't really need to make a big squad management to get the team fit for the quarterfinals here. So, I mean, I don't think there's a chance. There is a chance, of course there's a chance, but I'd say it's like 15 or 20% maximum, man. I think Bayern is a much better place right now. It's a Champions League. Just different. For me, I think it's going to be an easy tie for them.
Well, you know what? For me then, lads, I'm just going to go with Seville because there's always a surprise. And I think of all the matches, I think this is the one most likely where we can have a surprise because the other matches, except for Barca and Roma, like Liverpool, Man City, anyone could win. Juventus, Real, I've gone for Juventus, but I could see Real also winning. With this one, yeah, you expect Bayern, but a surprise, you never know, you know, they surprised Man United. They came back, they were 3-0 down against Liverpool, at home albeit, but they came back. But I think they can pull off one here, why not? Bayern might be little bit complacent in the Bundesliga. This has always been their problem in the Champions League of late, so maybe it'll come back to them again. And anyway, we'll move on to the last one. So Barca and Roma. Is this one also done, Carlos?
Of course it's not done. We're talking about another 30 to 40% of Roma going through, but no, 30. I'm not going to 40. I'm going 30% of Roma going through. I think Barcelona are going to go through. I think Messi is going to be in the final. That's it. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think it's going to be, I think they're going to go through.
Carlos, I think we have a new Nostradamus, and that's Carlos Santos from Portugal.
I'll accept that title.
Anytime I will want to know a result of a football game. I know I have a friend who knows what will happen.
Of course, you can always count on me, my friend. You can always count on me.
Brilliant.
But not seriously. Barcelona-Roma is probably the tie where you expect that Barcelona are the heavy favorites, and we have to agree, all of us, on that. But Roma have made a huge progress, I would say, in this season, last season. If they can play tactically disciplined for 90 minutes, and if it's their day, their D-Day, let's say this way, it can get really interesting, and I would not rule out a surprise, at least in one of those, one of the legs, one of the matches.
Mm-hmm.
Of course,
it's going to be
interesting.
It's going to be extremely difficult for Roma to eliminate Barcelona, but it's not impossible for them to get a result against Barcelona in one of the two matches.
But they certainly won't get a penalty at the Nou Camp. Dear listeners, go off now and Google when was the last time someone else was awarded a penalty other than Barcelona at the Nou Camp. You will be surprised. I wish I could remember. It's a long time ago anyway. Right, folks, we'll finish up. Just a few reminders for you then. Of course, we are Wonder Subs on Twitter, Wonder Subs on Facebook, we are Wonder Subs on YouTube, we are Wonder Subs on iTunes, and on all of the Android podcatchers as well. Thomas, where are you on the internet?
listeners can find me. The best way to get in touch is on Twitter. I'm Thomas, Cuncik on Twitter. The same on Facebook. So if you prefer Facebook, I'm there. And of course, you can get in touch with all of us on Wonder Subs, so just like Paddy has just said.
Yeah, so Wonder Subs on Twitter and 3 Wonder Subs on Facebook, I should say. Sorry, Carlos, where are you?
Yeah, same for me, but of course Twitter. Twitter's the best way to contact me. Carlos J_Santos.
Magic. And you can get me Spudcast on Twitter. That's my favourite one as well. So look, let me tell you what, next week we will be speaking about the big Hungarian derby between Thomas
Ferencváros or Pest Budapest.
Thanks, Thomas, for helping me out there. This is our 10th time trying for me to say it, and I just keep butchering it. Thanks, Thomas. And yeah, of course, we'll be having a look at some more interesting leagues from all over Europe as the clubs get back from the international break. Thomas and Carlos, thank you so much for joining me, and dear listeners, thank you so much for listening. Please make sure and tell all of your football crazy friends all about us as well, because all it takes is word of mouth for podcasts to grow. So yeah, just do us a favour, tell your friends about us and help us continue to grow so that we can continue to make amazing podcasts. Okay, thank you. Bye bye. See you next week.